Hello and welcome to another edition of Kayak Fishing Weekly. We're the show on the Serious Angler Podcast Network that is dedicated to all things kayak fishing. So I'm your host, Justin Largen. It has been a minute. I have missed a few weeks in a row now. Some of that was stuff that I could not control. I was traveling for a tournament down on Gunnersville a couple weeks ago and had my podcast stuff with me, had some car trouble. It was a little bit hectic. I won't bore you with the entire story, but basically had to catch a ride with a buddy. Thanks, Casey. Uh, Back home to Virginia so that I could work while my car was in the shop, and then went back down to pick up the car. So my podcast gear was down in Alabama for a bit, and yeah. Um, anything anyway. One thing led to another. I am happy to be back with another episode. There have been a number of events that have happened since the last Kayak Fishing Weekly show. We had a Bassmaster event on Lake Gunnersville. Congrats to Eric Siddiqui for winning that. We had this past weekend a Hobie event on Cayuga. We also had a KBF event on Santee Cooper and a KBF event on Chickamauga. I'll chat a little bit more about those. We'll recognize some of the folks from those tournaments in our Kings and Queens of the Week segment towards the end of the show. But before I bring our guest on, something that I kind of noticed while I haven't actually been putting out content for you guys, I have been thinking about the show a lot, and I feel like I've focused maybe too heavily on tournament fishing. I love the tournaments. I know there's some guys out there that are kind of like me, just love the not only to compete but to hear the strategy, to talk the strategy, and kind of pick people's brains and all the different things that go into that competitive side of it. But I realize there's a lot of guys out there that are not as into the tournament fishing, and it's probably a vast majority of people just like to get out there and catch fish. So with that in mind, I'm still going to talk some tournament stuff. Still going to recognize folks that have done well in tournaments, but I also want to focus with the channel on teaching, learning. Learning for myself from some of the guests that we bring on. So just wanted to put that out there. I am going to try to focus more on the teaching, and maybe a little bit less on the tournament stuff. Not going to get completely away from it, but I do want to try to teach at least through my guests, and then learn some for myself. So without further ado, I want to bring on our guest, a fantastic tournament fisherman. Had an opportunity to meet him at some different tournaments, KBF tournaments over the years. He's got a number of wins on the KBF side. He's got high finishes with Hobie, with bass. Fantastic fisherman. He's also got an impressive YouTube channel, putting out some great content, teaching people how to fish. Without further ado, Mr. Garrett Wade.
What's
Garrett,
up?
thanks for joining me.
Yep, no problem.
So you just had a big weekend this
I
past
did.
this past week. I mentioned the KBF event on Chickamauga, and I want to take a little bit of I guess a segue and kind of shout out Chad Hoover and KBF. Uh, Chad and then also Jeff Little. I credit them with getting me into kayak fishing. I
Right.
was in a little plastic John boat. I think they're the ones that I first saw doing it on YouTube. Um, they got me into it, and I think that Chad is the one that really made competitive, or at least competitive kayak bass fishing a thing. So he is making some changes with KBF for next year. He's pivoting, moving away from the trail series.
Right.
Um, I'm excited to see sort of what he does next year. He's definitely I can't remember the exact way that Eric phrased it at the award ceremony, but he's like a trailblazer basically. So I wanted to take a minute to shout out Chad Hoover for. I had a lot of fun at his KBF tournaments. It bugs me that I was not able to win one. I really wanted to, but you've got
You made a 10. Weren't
I
you in the
did,
10
I
this
did.
year? Yeah.
I was. So I feel good about that, but
Right.
I wanted one of those big black trophies, and you've got a few of them.
Yeah.
And you got one at the Sundown event. So this Chickamauga was the last trail event, at least for the foreseeable future.
Right.
And you got a first and a second at those two
Yep.
events. So we'll talk a little bit about those. I know, and then shoot, Gunnersville was
3
3
weeks
weeks,
ago.
I think it's right, and, another Tennessee River Lake, and you smashed them there too.
Yeah.
Top 5, right? 4th place finish there?
Yeah. 4th place.
So I'm not surprised. I know you're a great tournament angler. I'm never surprised to see your name at the top of the leaderboard. Always
I
a
am sometimes.
very few guys out there that are, but yeah, absolutely smashed them on Chickamauga, and we actually launched very close to each other the last day. I did not do well. You you put up, I don't remember your exact totals, but I know it was close to 97 inches both days.
It was 96 and a quarter the first day and 96 the second day.
Impressive. You won by, I think it was 15 inches the first day. It was a lot. Maybe
Yeah,
not 15, but
I
it was
think
close to that.
it was it may have been 13. Yeah,
Okay.
13 inches. And according to Chad, that's like the third.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
My
he
bad.
kicked.
I kicked you out for a second.
Yeah, I don't want to hear
Sorry
that.
about that. Yeah, yeah. So it
No,
was
no.
the third highest margin of victory. What was the, I missed the stat.
Supposedly, it's the third highest margin of victory in KBF,
Wow.
which is crazy. I don't know how that
I
happened.
I know I think I was 8th, and I was an inch and a half off of second, something like that.
Oh
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
very tight for everybody
Like
except you.
everybody had like 80 to 83, and somehow I just found a sweet little spot, and yeah, it was wild.
So, going into the tournament, did you kinda expect it to be that good, or
I mean, not that good. I thought I could break 90, probably. I don't want to say easily, but I felt comfortable that I could get 90 based on some of the fish I'd seen. Um, I had I pre-fished Thursday and Friday, and on Thursday I probably I'd have had 95 plus if I had brought my net.
you were telling me this story. Do you wanna share it, or is it too painful?
No, it's not that painful. I'm bad about if and there's people that don't use nets. I mean, I don't think Russ has probably ever used a net in his life. Um,
Really?
no, he doesn't use a net. But
I did not know
so
that.
he also fishes out of kayaks that are a lot lower, which you're in an outbacks. I mean, you're a little lower than I am,
Hmm,
but in a pro angler, I mean, it's kind of a long way to the water, so you got to reach over there to get to them. And of course, I had my seat on the higher position, but I was just practicing. I wasn't planning on throwing anything with treble hooks, so I'm like, I'm not, scared of getting hooked. So I just left my net in the truck, and well, I went in this one little pocket up on the river and was throwing it was a chatter bomb. It wasn't the jackhammer; it was just a chatter bomb, a white one.
that's a
And
bladed jig?
yeah, it's a
Different
bladed jig. It's XPS. It's a Z-Man partnered with XPS. It's the same.
XPS, like the Bass Pro Shops
Bass
XPS?
Pro, yeah. Bass Pro Shop has their own
Ah,
brand made by Z-Man.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I think they're like $8 or $10. They're a lot cheaper. Um,
Gotcha.
and they're definitely a little different. Like the skirt colors are a little different, and um, I don't know. Sometimes I just like to play with them, and I'll go fish different ones. But for whatever reason, this one I just decided to break that one out, and I saw a good fish kind of chase it and miss it, and I was like, okay, well that's good to see. And then I went up the bank about 50 foot, and I caught a 17, and I was like, all right, that's good. And I went another 30 or 40 foot, and I see a little spot in the grass missing, and I kind of throw my chatterbait over there and make a couple cranks, and it was just like doom. And I set the hook, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a giant. And I get him kind of close to the boat, and he swims by the boat. And at that point I realized like it's big. And he jumps behind me, and then he goes under me and comes up on the other side and jumps. And then I kind of got him on the top of the water, like 4 foot from the kayak, and I'm kind of easing him over. And as soon as I get my finger, like just grazes his lips, the chatterbait pops out. And I
Oh,
was like, That was, mm. And they're always, I mean, they're probably always bigger when you miss them. So I'm not going to say it's the biggest fish that I've ever hooked, but at the time I thought it was. So I mean, it very well might have. I mean, it's been a week went by now, and I've talked myself out of the idea that it was, a 10 pounder, but it was definitely an 8. I mean, it was
That was my next question.
it was a big one. Yeah, it was a big one.
And I've actually seen, like, I've noticed on different lakes, like, I got my first double digit this spring. Wasn't expecting it, just kind of happened.
Right.
But I thought it was smaller, just the proportions on it. It didn't have a great big old head on it. It was a
Yeah.
different, I guess, just a different sort of strain. It was
Right.
just one of those thick, wide, like all the way down to the tail, just
Hmm.
freak looking fish. And I lost one different lake a couple weeks later that I swore up and down. I mean, it came up and tail walked and like basically hit the side of the kayak, went
Right.
down and wrapped up in a tree and broke me off. And the head was just so much bigger. But I mean, I also know that it's a different lake and it could have just been a big head. I,
Right.
it, it was so quick. I couldn't really see what the body looked like. I don't know if it
Yeah.
was 10. I know it was 23 plus inches.
Well, I
Um,
know in that same
in that
spot during the
neighborhood anyway.
tournament, I caught a 20 and a half, a 20, and a 21 and a half. And all three of those fish were some of the heaviest looking fish that like I've seen in that size range. Like I caught a 20, and when I netted it and pulled it in the boat, I could have swore it was going to be like a 22. I mean, it was just giant. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like taking my little identifier card off the board and setting it to the side. And I'm like, he's gonna be too big, and I put him on there, and it was like he just like his tail just barely went 20 inches. And I was like, what in the world? But I mean, like he had tail fat. Like, I mean, his fat went all the way into his tail. And I was like, I don't like he's huge. I don't know how big he is. But I mean, like, he has to be a 6 pound 20 incher. I mean, like it was,
I believe it.
yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah, so I wouldn't doubt it if it, you know, I'd say your 8 pound estimate is,
It's probably
I
fair.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't be surprised, but I mean, you never know. You never know
Right.
how they're built.
Yeah.
You got to look at it. Nobody else did. So shoot, it could have been 12 pounds.
I mean, Russ caught a 26 there last summer when we were there practicing. So
Did he really?
yeah, not in that area. I'm not sure. I don't know where he fishes, but on Chick, I think it was. I could have swore it was like 26.
I've I've yet to touch 25. I've hit 24 a
24 is
few
my
times.
biggest. I've caught one 24. I've caught a couple like 23 and three quarters,
Hmm.
but that's been it. And you see these people in like the online tournaments, and they're putting up like a whole list of like 24s and 25s, and you're like, I need to figure out where that
Yeah.
public like is because that's a really good PFA.
Yes.
I know how this works.
Yes.
That's not your big lakes. That's one of them little honey hole lakes. I'm like, I'd love to go find one of those
Yeah.
'cause
I'd
there's
love
definitely
to
around.
see how the guys are doing it too. If there's some sneaky little technique or trick that they
Right.
found, or if it's just one of
Just one of
these,
those spots.
yeah, that nobody knows about, nobody fishes that. Yeah.
I thought I was gonna have one of those spots. Uh Year before last, we had a public fishing lake. It's a couple hours from the house, but they had done a draining and restocked it, and it was like you couldn't keep any fish out of it. And it was like 100 acres. It wasn't a real big place. But like after that first year, like you catch a 20 every time you went. And then the next summer I went, you know, you catch a 21, and they were like just giant fat because they're all the tiger bass hybrid, F1s or whatever they call them.
Yeah, I like those.
Yeah. So like they're growing like exponentially. And I'm like, dude, next year it's gonna be on. Well, it's out in the middle of the country, in the middle of nowhere, and they don't have a lake manager that actually like babysits the place. So all the good ones ended up getting hauled out. One of my buddies ran to a game warden there one time, and the guy was like, "Yeah, we've finally started, locking down on people, but like we've caught a bunch of people with a lot of fish coming out of here, and it's like,
Ah,
I mean, you're killing a really good spot to go fish, and now you go over there and you catch 50 fish, and I think like the last time I went, I caught like 50 fish, and the biggest one was 16 inches, and I'm like, y'all have ruined this place.
yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, it's terrible, and it's not like I mean, Mobile. It's not like we have a lot of places we can go catch good fish. I mean, there's occasionally you'll catch a 5 pounder on the river, but it's occasionally. It's like a 5 or 6 pounder will win a 100 boat big fish tournament,
Dang.
and there'll be like one of them, and then like second would be like a four. So I mean, there's just not a lot of you know
I
true
didn't
nice.
realize that was kind of the area that you're from. 'Cause
Yeah, yeah, I'm down here in Mobile.
I've started to have a theory. Like, I just saw Alabama. It's almost like Texas. Like, I see Alabama or Texas or
Yeah,
some
you're
of these
like,
states, and
oh,
I'm
they're
just
right,
like,
Gunnersville,
they
they're
get to
right,
fish around these giant fish all the time.
right.
But it's amazing to me how many guys, like, from West Virginia or Ohio, like, places that are, at least to me, stingy. Like, they're not known for bass fishing. They're not known for having these amazing lakes. And
Right.
those guys, I don't know if it's like they get to go someplace away from home, and it's like the kid in the candy store because 'cause they're going to some, like, bucket list fishery for
Yeah.
these tournaments. But, I've started to notice there's a lot of guys from tough regions that do really, really well on the tournament
So
scene.
the guy that mentored me when I was, late teens, early 20s, kind of growing up in the bass fishing thing, he always said, if you could learn to fish here where we're at, he said you can go anywhere. And a lot of that was because we're on a river system, so the river's always changing. Um, and then on top of that, it's tidal. So you've got tides that you have to deal with, every day. So the water goes up, water goes down. And it just adds a lot of little intricacies and different things like that I guess makes you a better fisherman. You don't realize it when you're doing it because this is just what you do. But when you go to some of these lakes that are, a lot more stable, if you find something that you probably found something, they're not going to be gone the next day. Most likely. I mean, some lakes they just. I had some lakes on I fished the Bassmaster Championship on Richard B. Russell,
Hmm,
and that was the first time that I had fished like a upland type reservoir, and they have bluebacks in there.
yeah.
And I got on some fishing practice on an A rig on some points, and I was like, dude, I'm gonna have a good tournament. And then I went back to those same points, and there was no fish on them, and I'm like, I don't understand. And find out, later they're like, oh well, those fish move, and I'm like, what do you mean they move? Like, oh, they'll be on this point today, and they'll be on that point tomorrow, and they just roam around and follow the fish and or the bait. And I was like, that'd have been nice to know because I like camped out on a couple of those spots because I was like, they're here.
They're
Like
gonna
I've
pull up
seen them.
eventually, yeah.
Yeah. No, they didn't.
That's interesting. I didn't realize you
Hmm.
were a title guy because I feel like I'm in Southern Virginia now, but I've most of my, I don't know, like, me really feeling like I was learning and getting good at bass fishing was I was in Northern Virginia, and the Potomac was, I could be at some of the stuff that, it was always off limits for the KBF tournaments, like the stuff near the city, but I
Right.
could be I could be on the Potomac, 15 minutes, most of the time. So I
Yeah.
spent a lot of time, tidal grass fishing, and, yeah, I love that stuff. We gotta talk to Steve-O and see if we can get bass to go to the Potomac or some other
Right.
tidal fishery. I want to Potomac, Chesapeake, someplace tidal.
Yeah.
You can get your blue trophy that way.
Maybe. I don't know. Y'all got a lot bigger tides out there than we do. Our tide's like a foot and a half
It's
once
not
a
much.
day.
I mean, it's 2-ish. I mean, you get flood tides and stuff sometimes, but it's not the what's that one up? The Delaware. I think it's the Delaware River that has like the 7-foot fluctuation or
Yeah.
something insane. Like
Yeah, I
I
think some
wouldn't
of the ones
I'd be
in
lost.
Georgia get some pretty big ones, and I think it probably must just depend on, like, how the sound sets up or something.
Mm, I have no idea. I
Yeah, I
just
don't
know
know.
I know I like those places because you can have a bad day, and in, like, 15 minutes, you get in the right little stretch, and it turns into a good day.
Yeah, yeah,
You can, just almost get lucky and find you never like, you're never out of it, I feel like, but
right.
Anyway,
And that was my day too.
we we've well, I've gotten sidetracked. So I want to circle back to some of the, what I was talking about kind of the intro, the teaching side of it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody that's got a better resume, particularly over the last month on TVA style lakes. This time of year, which I mean, to me, it's post spawn or early summer, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So for somebody, obviously, I didn't do particularly well at either tournament. So whether it's for somebody like me that or somebody that maybe is just starting out, like how would you approach a fishery like that this time of year? What are you looking for out of the gate?
Right.
You got
Well,
to go catch a bass. What are you going to do?
so I mean, I've had a lot of good luck fishing Gunnersville, fishing pretty shallow in the spring and the fall. Um, for me on this one, I was kind of thinking that we're at this point it was May. May's typically like your shad spawn type stuff, and my original train of thought was there's probably a better population of shad out on the main lake and main river. Um, and they're going to pull up to, you know, grass bars, hard spots, out by the channel, stuff like that. So that's kind of what I went out looking for, was just some offshore grass that either had some hard spots or um, I was down at Seminole and basically I found the fish in hydrilla flats that had pondweed mixed in it. And the pondweed is the stuff almost looks like oak tree leaves. It kind of comes all the way up to the surface.
Okay.
And the shad of getting that and spawn. So that's kind of what I was originally thinking, was like, and I went somewhere I'd never been. And, I'm just going out and I'm looking for somewhere that I think that, the bass are going to come out of their shallow areas, maybe not all the way out to the ledges yet, but somewhere in that kind of that in between area. So like your channels coming out of big coves or whatever, um, with you know stopping points on the way. So like if there's a channel and there's a big grass flat and there's something odd or different right off that channel in that grass flat, there's probably going to be fish there. And that's kind of what I did, and I just um I didn't get an early start, any of my practice days, so I don't know if there was a shad spawn going on or not, but I just went out looking for, somewhere that would tell me that, hey, there's a fish or two here. Um, in that time of year, it can be really tough throughout the day. Like the experience I've had on places like Lake Eufaula, if there's a shad spawn going on, the fishing is absolutely great for an hour during the shad spawn and then sucks the rest of the day. Like you might as well just go
Hmm.
home. You can't catch fish. Like it's just bad. So
They fed up. Now they're just chilling
yeah,
somewhere until it's
yeah.
time
So
to
like
eat some more shad.
if I can get in areas that I feel like there maybe would happen to be a shad spawn or something, and if I can get a bite or two, even if I don't have a great day, but if I get a bite or two or three and it looks like it's a decent grade of fish, then I'm like, okay, well, most likely it's just tough this time of day. And if I come here in the morning and, when there should be a good feed going on, there's a decent chance of having a good day. And I mean, it doesn't always work out. Maybe you only caught the two fish in the area, but a lot of times that seems to have done well for me.
Gotcha. So you're looking for sort of in between stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Stuff.
definitely. I mean, June. I mean, the end of May, early June is like the beginning of what they typically would say is ledge fishing time. And there's definitely fish on the ledges, but it's still early enough that you've still got the brim spawn going on. So you've got all the brim eaters staying up shallow. And so the bass are kind of coming out a little bit in waves, and they're just not really, it's not hot enough for them to be like, oh, I've got to go deep yet.
Gotcha. That is one of my brim beds. That's one of my favorite things to do
Oh yeah.
this time of year. Like I've said it before, and people are probably tired of hearing me talk about it, but I love fishing shallow. I love any. moving baits, stuff where I can visually see the strike,
Right. Oh yeah.
water I can stand in.
Yep.
And I will, and I was talking about being, living on the Potomac for all those years. I would specifically go to the Potomac because I could catch fish all summer there. I didn't have to go to those other lakes and fish out deep. So
Right.
I'm not very good at fishing out deep because I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I didn't pay my dues. So that brim beds is one of the ways I've found for, you can basically, as long as there's bluegill spawning or whatever the other sunfish species, as
Yeah.
long as you can find those clusters of beds, you can find some fish shallow just hanging around there
Yeah.
waiting.
They're gonna be around
Waiting.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found that a lot this week. Areas that had, and I might not. I mean, I saw some like actual bedding activity, but a lot of times, like if you're just cruising around, and even I noticed this at Gunnersville when I'm out there cruising around. I stand up a lot when I fish. I've got my kayak set up where I can stand and steer with my shins, but I'm always looking because like you'll go through big areas of like nothing, and a lot of the times the water's clear enough you can see at least down to the grass. But if you just get out and you're cruising around, when you start seeing areas that have brim and sunfish just kind of messing around, pecking the top, whatever, like there's probably bass in that area. I mean, like that you found an area that's holding fish. Um, and that's kind of one of the things that kind of clued me in at Gunnersville was like I came across a couple areas that like I start seeing some activity and I'm like, okay, well let me fish here. And you fish it, and if you get bit, gives you another clue. But I'll cover a lot of water just cruising around. If I don't see something, I'll just keep on cruising. I don't even make a cast. I'm just looking for somewhere that's got some kind of activity going on.
Gotcha. I think I make that mistake also of, I mean, whether I'm tournament fishing or just fun fishing, I'll put in. And, I know I do it, and I tell myself not to, but as soon as I get in, "Ooh, let's start here," and I've gotta immediately start fishing as soon as I put the kayak. Like,
Right.
I was talking to family before the tournament. I was like, "I'm gonna try for this one to not cast, see how long I can go without casting," and it was about, 2 minutes, and and I
Yeah.
was zing, zing, zing.
Well, we
Uh,
had our tournament last year at Santee Cooper, and it was my birthday week that on one of the practice days. So I didn't really, we went to Charleston and went and had lunch one day, and I took that day off with the family. But I literally caught one fish, missed a fish, and lost a fish in practice. In my 2 days in practice, that's it. I literally hooked into three fish. But one of my practice days, and it was kind of post spawn, so you'd have fry garters and stuff, brim beds type stuff going on then. I guess it was
okay.
May. And I literally just, it was a bright sunny day, and I'm like, you know what? The fishing is probably not going to be that great today. And I hardly made a cast all day. I literally just stood up and just rode around and tried to spook fish out of shallow areas. I just cruise through the little shallow spot. I mean, you get in little pockets and it's like 2 feet deep. I'm just cruising around. I'm just looking for something to kind of scoot out from under me. And I'm like, okay, well, there's fish here. Okay, well, there's fish here. I'll come back and try to catch you tomorrow. If I know they're there, usually I can figure out how to catch them. So sometimes I'm not even fishing. I'm just riding around looking, seeing, if I can find somewhere that they're living.
Now, are you disciplined enough to actually have all the rods with you, when
Oh, I definitely have everything with me.
you're just actually disciplined and, "All right, we're not gonna cast, I'm just gonna look," and I
Well,
think
I mean,
that's what I gotta work on.
it was one of those days. It's like a front had come through. It was like the brightest of bluebird days. It's, those days that like you just know it's going to be a tough day to fish. And I was like, but it's a really good day to see because like this. I mean, it's bright. There's not a cloud in the sky. There was no wind. It was just dead calm. And I'm like, I'm just going to ride around and look, and see what I see. And I rode around. I found some beds, marked some beds, didn't fish them. Went like, ooh, that's nice. Mark and kept on going, and actually came back at the end of the day and caught a 6-pounder off one of those beds that I'd marked. And like that was the fish that cashed me a check at that event.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah,
So wait, so during the event, you'd found it in practice,
found it in
and
practice.
you just ran back to it, so you're still there, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I found it in I found this one little area that had some fish in it that I was like, I'm going to kind of camp out here and just chunk a Cinco around out in the middle and see if I can get bit. And it worked out. I mean, I caught a couple of 18s in there and had a limit. I mean, it was slow, but I had a limit by around noon and probably had an hour or two left. And I'm like, and this was back when we still had the pedal. So I'm like, I got like 2 miles to pedal over here to where I saw those beds, but let's go for it. So I start pedaling, and I get up there and I look and I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, there she is. And flip over there and she's interested immediately. And I think I missed it on a Cinco to start with. And I'm like, crap, we're probably not going to bite this one again. So I tie on another color and flip it out there. And it wasn't interested in that. So I like tied on something completely just bizarre. Um, my buddy makes these little jerk shad looking baits and I Nico rigged it. Well, I wacky rigged it and I flipped it out there. And of course, they're not full of salt, so it didn't sink. And I was like, crap, that's not going to work. So I reached in my box and I found a nail weight and I just shove it in the head and flip it back out there and it sinks. And I'm like, just sitting there shaking this little white bait. And it was like, and I set the hook and it was, I mean, 21. So I mean, it was 6 pounds.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
I like that. So a lot of time looking in practice,
A lot of time looking. I
or just
covered,
looking in general before you even fish, if you're fun fishing.
yeah, I mean, or just don't get bogged down to just fish all the way down this bank, fish a little bit and then just go and just, oh, that looks nice. And, fish for 5 minutes and keep going, and just hit the high spots. I think I covered 17 miles Thursday in practice.
In one day.
Hmm.
Goodness. Now, it is a little different from when we were, I guess man-powered only and
Right. Oh
paddling or
gosh. Yeah.
pedaling,
Yeah.
but
Well, when
still,
you're man powered, you're like, okay, I'm going to look in this 3 mile area. And I'm not going further than that. Like I need to find it here because I don't want to pedal any further than that.
right.
But yeah, now I mean I've got the Newport, NK 300, so I mean I can cruise 6 miles an hour wide open, and
You've got a 12? Sorry to cut you off. 12 or a 14?
14.
Okay, so you got the 14 Hobie
So I'm in
Pro
the PA
Angler.
14, the XR, and I've got the NK 300 on it, um, and I'm running the Dakota Lithium's 36-volt, 60 amp hour battery.
Okay.
And with that setup, I can run between 6 and 6.2, just kind of depending on how much weight I got in my boat for the day or if there's any wind. Of course, if I run that fast, I'm probably only going to get probably 12 miles out of it. I
Okay.
probably would kill my battery at about 12 miles. But if I cut it back to 5.5 miles an hour, I can go easy around 20 or just over 20 miles.
Goodness.
Still cruise along pretty good.
That's a good clip. Now I have not. I guess I could do it on the graph. I need to try to get my top speed with the Outback. I don't have the 300. I've got the 180. So I know that's going to
Right.
be a little bit slower. But I'm impressed that that big pro angler will go that fast with the
Yeah.
300.
Yeah. And I
That's
mean, you could have a motor twice as big and it probably wouldn't go much faster. I mean, like you're pretty much maxed out on that whole displacement because at 60% throttle, I'm at like 5.6, 5.5. So I'm
gotcha.
going 5.5 miles an hour at a little over half throttle. So I'm having to give it twice as much power just to get that extra half a mile an hour. Um, and that's just the way the boat is, the displacement is on it. It's just not going to go much faster. So yeah, when you're willing to lose that half mile an hour and kind of get into that area, that cruise control area where it's getting good fuel economy, it'll you can cover some water.
That's awesome. That's a credit to the Dakotas too.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they're
17
great boats.
miles. So now I'm curious, how many ramps did you pass in that day? Like,
Uh,
Or did
So
you find a section?
I launched at one ramp that was closer to where I was staying and past the ramp that I would have launched at if I was just going somewhere to go fish. But other than that, none. Because I
Okay.
went all the way up one side of the river and all the way back down another side of the river.
Okay.
And there's large sections of that lake that there's not any ramps. You can cover a lot of water.
Yeah, I've been tempted to do that kind of determined strategy at times, is try to run as far away from a ramp as I think anybody else will go.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's
Which was a
interesting.
really good philosophy when you had to pedal.
Yeah.
I think even Christine's done that a couple times. She's like, I can pedal forever, so I'll just go 6 miles and nobody else is screwed with those fish.
I did that a few times and I don't know, I feel like sometimes it can pay off, but
And
it
only if there's fish 6 miles away.
yeah, exactly.
Just
Exactly.
because you went the furthest doesn't mean that you're gonna win.
Yeah, you win the award. At least I thought one tournament I won the gold star for effort, and then
Right.
I run into Drew Gregory paddling, and then he
You'll
goes,
never win his gold star.
no, he did like I think he did another 2 or 3 times. Like, it was an insane amount that he
Was that
paddled.
at Caddo?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did 5
I
miles,
don't even know if he fished.
each way,
He
and
paddled so far, I don't even know if he got to fish in that tournament
not much.
because he was
Hit one
paddling.
one cast, yeah. Maybe, you gotta learn to cast with your feet or something.
I don't know. Yeah, like
Paddle
he was like,
paddle
"Yeah, I
and
put in
cast.
like 20 miles," and I'm like, "Paddling, dude."
Yeah. That's the I don't know, I still like paddling in certain situations, but man, it's nice to have a pedal drive or a motor when it
Right.
to have your hand, the fishing rod in your
Yeah,
hand and actually
I
be
got into
casting.
this late enough that I barely can call myself a kayaker. Like I don't take a paddle with me
Ever.
at all. I'm like, I'm a terrible kayaker. I don't even take a paddle. I'm like, I got a motor, and if it breaks, I got pedals. So I'm like, I shouldn't get stranded. And if I get
Yeah.
somewhere and I get stuck, I'll get my net and I'll just push with my net.
Okay, not even a push pull.
No, I mean I've got a power pole, but it's back there attached, so I can't take it out.
Be tricky.
But yeah,
That's a good point, though. I mean, if you've got the pedal drive and the odds of both failing,
I
like, at the
mean,
same time, I mean, it's
I hope
possible,
not. If
but
they do, I deserve to swim back. I mean, like it's a bad day.
just have some snacks or something.
Yeah, just float and wait for someone to come get you.
So when you're covering water, you say you like to stand a lot.
Yeah, I this year I started standing a lot more. Basically, this year is when I sat all of the last 2 years pretty much exclusively, and I really feel like this year I'm a lot better of an angler standing. Just because
Gotcha.
I mean I can't imagine how much area that I used to fish that didn't have any water in it, or you could see the bottom. There's not any fish there. But when you're standing, you get that view, and you can see if there's water under those trees that you're throwing at you, instead of being 30-40 foot away and your depth finder says 3 feet and you're like, oh, there's water here, and it's like 6 inches deep over there, and it's like, oh well, I just wasted an hour having no idea what I'm really fishing. So getting that I mean, like this week I caught several of my fish because I saw them come up to my bait, and I would twitch it or kill it or do something, and they'd eat it. And had I been sitting, I'd have never seen them, and definitely wouldn't have caught them. So it definitely helps, in the way I've got mine set up with the foot pedal steering on the front. I can stand up and I can use my shins to steer with. I went and got foam sponges, cut out a sponge and duct taped it to my foot pedals, not my foot pedals, but my steering pedals, so
Padding
that
for your shins.
for padding for my shins.
I like that.
Yeah, so I did that, and
Yeah.
then I've got my throttle on like an arm about probably 12, 14 inches that I can actually lift up or put down, so that if I'm standing, my throttle's right there by my hip, or well, down around my knee, but either way I can reach it without bending down. So
Gotcha. To adjust your speed.
yep. So I got my speed right there. If the wind's at my back, I can literally just pop it in reverse real slow, and I can like hold my boat position, and so I don't blow up on stuff. I mean, like I've almost got it. Besides spot lock, I've almost got it to the point where I've got the boat handling of a bass boat.
That's impressive because that's one of the issues that I've got. I put my NK 180 on last year,
Mhm.
and I did sort of a foot steering kit on the Outback. It's a little bit different. I don't think it's has quite the stability that your PA 14 does.
Right.
Um, and I always find myself like bending down and trying to like bump it with my hand, and I'm
Yeah.
always like it takes enough force that I'm always like either under hitting it or over hitting it, like over
Right.
correcting the turn, and then I don't have any sort of extension. So I'm gonna have you got anything on your I know you've got that YouTube channel.
Yeah. So I've got a walkthrough on the kayak, and I kind of show all of that stuff in that walkthrough. It's a pretty detailed walkthrough. I think it's like 20 minutes long. But also with that, if you watch like the video I dropped today, you can see me actually. It's the one from this weekend, but you can see how I stand and fish, and like how I'm steering, how I'm using the throttle, and all of the stuff. It works. It works really good.
I like the sound of it because the padded shins, like being able to just I don't know if I could do it with the Outback just with the stability difference.
Right.
I don't
Well, I don't move my feet. Like when I stand up, I kind of like scoot forward, and then basically the foot pedals are like touching my shins. So all I'm doing is like rocking my knees forward, and that pushes them just enough to steer. I mean, it's not really like you would have a hard time like making like a hard 90-degree turn with it. I mean, you can, but you really gotta like push it. But
gotcha.
I'm just trying to like just get enough to where I can fish and steer, So I'm just kind of like moving a little bit here, a little bit there. But my feet don't move. My feet stay put. And all I'm doing is just rocking my knees forward, and it pushes those pedals.
Gotcha. All
It
right, so
works really good.
everybody head over to Garrett's YouTube channel. It's Garrett Wade Fishing, is that right?
Yeah, yeah, Garrett Wade fishing.
All right. I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
see the down
you'll
under.
you'll
Yeah, I
you'll
wanna
like it. Because Christine was talking. She's been doing that for about a year now, doing it with her shins. And I was like, I did it at the Gunnersville tournament a month and a half ago, and like by the time I made it to Texas, I was like, man, my shins are like they look bruised because I'd been fishing for a whole week. And I told my wife, I'm like, I got to figure out a padding. So we went to Tractor Supply, and I'm in my head, I'm thinking like the foam insulation or something would be just enough padding, and not something that's like absorbent that's going to get nasty. And I walked by the giant car wash sponge, and I was like, that might work. And she's like, it's going to fill it with water. I'm like, but not if I duct tape it. So I went and got me some duct tape and just wrapped it up. So basically, it's watertight, and it's got that little sponge in there. And
Ah.
it's like, it's ghetto, but I mean, it works really
It's
good.
does it work though?
It
That's
works
the
great.
important part.
Yeah, it works great.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. That's, because I'll be honest, I love my Hobie, but that's the one thing, like, I see guys like Casey Reed, using that Old Town Autopilot, and
Right.
that standing up and, being able to do left, right, like,
I
direction
don't
with your
want to do this. Like, I can't because I'm a fidgeter. Like, I have to have, like, when I'm sitting and I'm using my steering, every single cast I touch my throttle, or not my throttle, but my steering. Like I'm a constant adjuster. I can't handle like drifting in the wrong. Like I want it exactly where I want it the whole time. So
Gotcha.
like I had one of those with spot lock, and like just drove me nuts. Like because I'm like every cast I felt like I just had to adjust just a little bit, and I probably didn't. But that's just the way I am. Years ago I had a bass boat, so I mean I used my foot pedal, and I mean, so I could do what I wanted with it. And like just this
So
just
you're
drove me
you're
nuts.
conditioned to
It
gotcha.
just,
See, I
I
was
couldn't
looking at it like that I could see that. I've been tempted because I look at that and I see, okay, well, I could reach down and instead of reaching down and now like I'm having to bend down, I'm not seeing stuff while I bump the directional control. Like,
Right.
at least if, if I've got it in my hand, I can stand up the whole time and be looking as I'm
Yeah.
driving.
Right. Oh,
But
it's and that was
your
like, we
system
had
is
some
better than both.
tournaments. Yeah, we had some, like, spring tournaments at Caddo and stuff, and I'm like and that's when I started my brain started going, like, I gotta figure out a way to stand and steer, like, because if you stood up, all of a sudden you can see the bottom in those swamps, because it's only, like,
Mhm.
2 foot deep, but if you're sitting, that water's black, you can't see.
You
But
can't
if you
see where the
stood
depth
up,
change is or the
yeah,
little
you could
grass
see
change.
or you could see, like, they were spawning, so you could see, like, a little light spot, or you'd see a fish on a stump, and sitting, you couldn't. Um, so it was kind of one of those deals. It's like even it's kind of one of those things with like the pre-fishing. Like if I could have just stood up and just cruised through the swamp looking, then I'd have been able to go, okay, well, this area's got beds. There's one over here, here, and here. Cause they kind of they'll bed, not like brim bed together, like in a little the back of the truck area, but
Right.
like they'll be in an area that's like got usually multiple beds. Like that's where the bass have come to bed, and there may be stretches with nothing there. So I mean, if you can stand up and cover that water and look, especially on like a spawn type deal, you can find those areas that are holding those fish without sitting and having to just wait till you catch something.
Gotcha.
Because I'll see a lot more than I catch. you know. So, I that's kind of how I like to do a lot of my stuff is like, if I'm practicing and I'm not catching, I might quit fishing and see if I can just ride around and scare fish, you know, because it's like I just want to know if there's anything here. So I'll just put the motor on high and stand up and run through a grass flat and just look for something like trying to get away from me. And I'm like, oh, okay, there's one. There's one. Okay, they're here. They're just not biting right now. So
I like
maybe
it.
first thing in the morning it'll be on, or maybe tomorrow's a rain day and it's like that. Maybe in this clear water that'll be a good day. So I do that a lot.
I like it. I like it. Um, I want to be respectful of your time, but I got one more question. So we talked sort of general places to look this time of year for a TVA style lake. I want to talk baits for a minute, or at least I want you to talk about baits.
Yeah.
Like, what's your thought process on that? Are you looking at top water? Are you looking at trying to cover, different depths?
So I mean, obviously, it kind of depends where I'm going, and a lot of times, kind of the history of what I stumbled on, on a previous trip, maybe. Um, Top water is definitely like a big thing this year. I mean, this time of year. I use the Strike King Sexy Dog a lot. Like if I'm getting in, like if I'm fishing offshore type stuff, I'm probably going to throw that walking bait. That's what I was throwing at Gunnersville and caught 98 inches in an hour and a half. Um, I caught all of them on that except for I caught one on a Chad Chad. I throw that a lot, especially over like grass areas. Buzz baits are always good this time of year. When the weather gets right. Obviously not when the sun's out, but if you get like a little front coming through or a little rain or it gets a little cloudy, you can kind of tell it starts getting right for buzz bait. Um, when the fishing gets tough, a fluke is always good. And I'm not talking like a fluke where you throw it out and you're working it back real fast, but kind of throw it out and kind of work it back kind of slow. Um, is a go-to. Chatterbait is one of the ones that's year round, and then I always have a wacky rig Senko tied on. Like I don't
Hmm,
go anywhere without a wacky rig Senko tied on. As far as
I like it.
crankbaits and stuff, I got two crankbait boxes that I hardly open.
Dude, I'm kind of the same way. There's certain situations where I'll throw crankbaits. At least around grass, I typically don't. I like that
Right.
hybrid hunter thing, which
I'll do the
it's
hybrid
like
hunter some, but other than that,
I don't throw them. Like, I'll throw them early in the year before the grass is up. I'll throw them if I'm around rock or hard bottom or something,
right?
but when I get around the grass, man, I just don't. I've got a
Yeah,
bajillion crankbaits that I've acquired over the years, but
Oh, I
they
know.
don't get nearly enough play. Like for me, it's almost like a pre-spawn deal or for very specific lakes and
Yeah, certain
TVAs.
lakes, and I mean, I probably throw 'em more in the fall on certain lakes than anything. When they really start chasing shad,
Mm,
I might get out on points. Um, I threw a crankbait some at Logan Martin this spring. The fish were on points, and I threw a crankbait some then. But yeah, it's just not really something I throw a lot. I've gotten where here lately I've started getting into the bigger baits a little bit, um, throwing like the mag draft style baits, and then um, I got a little secret custom swim bait that's been
yeah,
working out really good for me.
don't tell anybody about that. I'm not going to
Yeah,
ask you about
yeah.
that.
There's no names going on with that one. It's
Well,
it's in the video. You can look at it and be like, "What is that?" But you probably
they
won't
won't.
figure out what it is.
Yeah, well, mag draft's a good bait though. Well,
Yeah, it
that's
is.
still a
I
good
like the
tip.
the Bass Mafia one a good bit.
The
The Logan swim bait
dangerous.
that's got the one single hook in the back.
Mm,
That one I've had pretty decent luck with recently.
okay. So we've talked some of the, we've talked baits, we've talked some of these transition areas. What about depth? Is there a specific depth that you're looking at, or
It's
is it more?
yeah, I think
I
it's cutting
guess.
out. Oh,
Oh,
you're back.
sorry.
You're back.
So is it more? Is there a general depth that you found, like I say Gunnersville or Chickamauga, were you able to run around and say, okay, these fish are sitting in 4 foot of water,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
where you can actually
It
pattern it?
usually takes me usually a day before I start figuring out kind of what's going on. I waste a lot of time usually the first day, and a lot of that is I don't get in a hurry and I just kind of you know if I'm not catching fish, I'm okay with it. I'm just trying to let it the little clues kind of hit me here and there. Usually by the end of that day, I've kind of got a pretty good idea of like, okay, well, I've got bit in the back of like several pockets and they're in the shallow water, or I've got bit out, toward the mouth of them, or maybe on the main lake. But I mean, the last couple weeks I've caught all my fish probably 4 foot or less. So I mean, I usually stay pretty shallow. I'd say most of
Okay.
them. I would say almost all of the checks that I've cashed have been 5 foot or less.
I like it. I
Yeah,
like it. It's kayak water. It's
it is. It is kayak water.
deep enough we can stand in. Or um well, Garrett, I appreciate you taking time and let me pick your brain a little bit about fishing this time of year. Congrats again on not only Guntersville but the win and the second place at Chickamauga.
Yeah.
And then I want to give you, basically give you the floor for a minute. If you want to talk about your YouTube channel, anything you've got coming in the works, uh, the floor is yours.
Yeah. So I mean, I've got the YouTube. I got my computer on like a little bitty table, so it's shaky. Yeah. So I've got the YouTube channel, and it's it's done pretty decent. I finally got a little traction on it. Um, I put all my tournament videos on there, except for Gunnersville. I decided I wasn't going to record. I was going to take a break, and then I smashed them, and I was like, kind of like the net deal. It's like I probably should have recorded, but maybe that's why I caught them was because I didn't record. I don't know. Um, but I try to record all of my trips. I'm gonna start doing, the top baits of the month here pretty soon. That seems to be a hit with people, and it's not something that I normally do. I've got a lot of videos on there of like how to like rigging style stuff. I got, I love doing the rigging on the kayak, and I like recording it and making videos for it. Um, but that's kind of what my YouTube channel looks like. And then I got an Instagram and a Facebook page, Garrett Wade Fishing, on both of those. If you want to follow along on the journey.
Yeah, I think everyone would do well to. I'm going to be checking out that how to use your padded shin steering system.
It's. I mean, I almost hate to put it out there because it does. I feel like it's like made that much of a difference for me, but yeah, it's kind of I can't keep my mouth shut. I have to tell people cool things I found because like, oh,
Yeah,
you know,
see if you can figure out like a custom way to rig that thing and sell it.
I know.
A way to monetize that padding system.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
mean the the
Garrett Wade
dugout
chin
already
pads.
sells the whole kit for the steering, which is what I've got. I put it in myself, but I bought the kit from them. Um, so I mean, you know, they get. I was pretty much the same way that I did it before when I had to go buy all the little parts and pieces by myself. But they've got it all packaged where you just like I need a kit and you get the whole thing. Um, so that's how I've got it rigged. But yeah, the padding on there, if I could figure out a better way, and I'm sure there's a better way to where it would be marketable, maybe something.
Cool.
The,
Well,
a little less sponge and duct tape.
yeah, I want to try the sponge and duct tape until
It
you figure
works.
out a better system.
It's work. I mean, it's been on there for like 2 months, and it hadn't tried to come off yet. So it's
I
holding
like it.
on.
Garrett, thanks so much for coming on. Congrats again. Everybody go give Garrett a follow, and we'll have to do it again soon.
Yep, sounds good.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Take care. Garrett Wade, ladies and gentlemen. Fantastic fisherman, great dude. A lot of fun talking to him. All right. So we are down to our final two segments. I'm going to do things a little bit differently. We typically end the show with Kings of the Week. I'm going to do that segment next, and then we'll do our latest segment, our newest segment, kayak bassin on a budget, where we talk about some sort of money saving tip, a way to do kayak fishing a little bit cheaper. We'll do that segment last. So, Kings of the Week, as I mentioned, there were a lot of tournaments over the past couple weeks, a lot of tournaments since our last episode. So, again, my bad there. What I want to do, it's really hard for me to pick a winner from all of these winners, but I still want to give these guys some shine. So, I want to go through these four tournaments, two KBF events, and then a Bassmaster and a Hobie event. So, I want to recognize the top finishers from those. Sorry if I don't get to everybody. In the interest of time, I'm going to try to go through these quickly, but I'm gonna at least mention the winners from each of these, and then we'll do the kings and queens sort of after that, if that makes sense. So I'm going to do the fishing chaos side with KBF first. So we're going to start with the Santee Cooper event, May 18th and 19th. They've got two trail events, separate events, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. The Saturday event was won by Nick Ezell of North Carolina. He bested the field with 87.5 inches. Great showing from Nick to take the first one. Day two, or trail two, rather, on Sunday, won by Justin Faircloth, also of North Carolina, with 94.25 inches. I also want to say a personal thank you to Justin. I mentioned the car trouble that I had sort of at the onset of the show when I was down fishing in Gunnersville. And there's three people that helped me out. I mentioned Casey. He gave me a ride from Alabama back home to Virginia. That allowed me to go to work on my normal schedule. Also, I did not mention yet, but Corey Dreyer took my kayak for a little over a week. I didn't have a way to get it back to Virginia. He took it, had an extra spot on his trailer, and held on to it for me for a week. So thanks, Corey, also. And then he drove it and met Justin Faircloth, and Justin shuttled the kayak and met me down on Chickamauga this past weekend, so that I was able to fish. Again, I would not have been able to make it to work and to fish Chickamauga without those guys helping me out. So I really appreciate it. All right. So back to business. We're going to jump ahead to the KBF on Chickamauga this past weekend, June 1st and 2nd. We spoke at length to Garrett. So congrats again to him for winning the Trail 1 on Saturday. An impressive showing, 96.25 inches. He won by 13 inches, even put an absolute beat down on the rest of us. And then on Trail 2 on Sunday, Mr. Damon Henderson put up an impressive 99 inches to edge out Garrett for the win. So congrats to Damon. And that wraps up the KBF side. I'm going to jump to Gunnersville. since that happened first. Gunnersville also took place May 18th and 19th, a very well attended Bassmaster event and won by none other than Mr. Eric Siddiqui. Not his first blue trophy, probably won't be his last. Eric's been doing this a long time at a very high level, put up 189 and a half inches to best of field of 211 anglers. So congrats, Eric. Um, I'm sure, again, we'll see you with another blue trophy before too long. Congrats also to runner up Barry Davis, 187 inches, another impressive total. Uh, and then Ryan Nye, the third spot with 186 and 3/4 inches. Congrats to those folks. And then the most recent tournament this past weekend, the Hobie BOS on Cayuga, June 1st and 2nd. First off, it was an absolute beatdown. I think they were over 30. Well, I can pull it up here. I've got the stats in front of me. Let's go to day one. I believe it was over 30 anglers that caught 90 inches on day one. And yep, more than that. So Aaron Fetterman was in 35th after day one, 90 inches. Everybody above that had 90 inches for the day. That's absolutely insane. There were a lot of high 80s below that. I mean, a lot of people absolutely smashed them at this event. It was a slugfest, but that slugfest had to be won by somebody. It was Jordan Westerman, put up an insane total, 195 and a quarter inches. He did it with all brownfish, all smallmouth. Awesome, awesome deal. Runner up, Mr. Jake Angulis. Congrats to him. He's putting together an impressive year on the national scene. Also, congrats to Ryan Matlovich. I think I said it right that time. Another fantastic year he's having. 192 and a quarter inches to take the third place spot. So, congrats to everybody there, but none of those guys are going to be my king and queen of the week. What I want to do this week, I mentioned earlier in the show that this Chickamauga tournament, the KBF Trail Series, it was the sundown event. So Chad is moving away from the Trail Series in 2025. He's taking things in a little bit different direction. I think he wants KBF to stay a grassroots organization focused on fun, and he wants to bring new anglers to the sport. He's done a great job of that over the years. I credit him with bringing me into the sport, and I think he's the one that put tournament fishing, kayak bass tournament fishing on the map. He made it a thing. If he doesn't do what he did all those years ago, we don't have what we have today with Hobie and with bass, where we can go fish kayak tournaments and win tens of thousands of dollars. So I think Chad deserves a lot of credit for that. I'm sad to see the trail series go, um, but I want Chad to do what's best for him. I think it's going to give him an opportunity also to come out and compete against us in some of these other events. I think he wants to see how he stacks up against some of the folks that he's been handed trophies to for all these years. So I'm looking forward to competing against him. I wanted to give him a shout out. I think it's well deserved. He's a pioneer for the sport. And I will not be surprised if he goes off and starts some new thing, comes up with some new wrinkle that takes off and changes our sport again. But congrats to Chad. He's my first king of the week. And second, I've got a queen of the week. Not her first time winning this honor. Probably won't be her last, but I wanted to recognize Christine Fisher. And not so much for her on the water abilities like we normally do, but for something that I saw on social media today. So she finished the Cayuga event in fourth place. She had the second day over 94 inches of smallmouth and had a 15 incher in her limit, which is insane. I think she caught her personal best that day, 22 inches. She also caught a 20-inch fish that did not make it into her creel. And that's kind of where the story comes in and why I want to recognize her. She spotted this fish sight fishing. She casts to it. She sees the fish eat. She sets the hook, bites the fish to the net, lands the fish, knows it's a giant fish, knows it's a 5-inch call, and it gives her a chance to win. But also notices that the fish is hooked outside the mouth. It bit the lure. Spawning fish, they bite funny sometimes. They'll bite a portion of the bait. So the fish bit the bait, but got hooked from the outside rather than the inside of the mouth. And she did the right thing. Um, the thing that I think a lot of us would do in that same situation, that I hope all of us would do in the situation, she turned the fish loose, didn't count it. She got footage of the fish. It's a big fish. But I wanted to recognize her because I think that especially with the platform that she has, the number of people that will see that video, um, that speaks well to our sport, to the integrity that we have as kayak fishermen. And I know there's other stories, kind of reminded me when a few years back, Jody Queen forgot to put on his life jacket for the day and nobody else is around. Nobody would have known any different, but he called the tournament director on himself and reported it and, ended up basically DQing himself from that event. And I think that's something that, those are two examples that, are publicly known. I'm sure there are many other ones that go unheralded, but I think it's I think it happens a lot in our sport. I mean, think about it. We go out and compete. Nobody's around. Nobody sees us a lot of times. Even if there's say 15 people at your launch, you go to your starting spot and there might not be anybody around. Yet you sit there and wait until official lines in. You don't fish before. Um, and it's because we all have integrity. And I think that, Christine showed that, and I want to recognize her for, once again, um, showing the integrity that we have in our sport. I think it speaks well to us as a community, kind of like those guys that helped me out. It's some awesome people that we have in our sport. I think that's one of the best parts of kayak fishing is the people that I've met doing this over the last few years. So that wraps up our kings and queens of the week. But we got one more segment, Bass on a Budget. And this is a segment it's a newer one where I'm trying to bring out some sort of a tip, a way to do fishing, specifically kayak fishing, a little bit cheaper. And today I wanted to talk about apparel because we're getting into the summer months. It's hot in the south. It's hot mid-Atlantic where I am. Up north, it might not be super hot yet, but it's about to be summertime temps. And for me anyway, it's important to be comfortable on the water. I've used some great brands over the years. I love Blackfish gear. Uh, Owned a lot of Hook apparel over the years, Columbia apparel. Great technical, lightweight fabric, moisture wicking, keeps you comfortable in the summertime. But it's also expensive. And there's a brand that I found a couple of years ago at Walmart of all places. Real Tree Outdoors, I think is what they're calling or what I think that's the correct name. Real Tree Outdoors. It has the Real Tree logo on it. But at Walmart, back like in the fishing section, they've got technical shirts and shorts. Now the shorts, they're 20 bucks. I just bought my third pair of those. They're a lightweight short. They've held up really well for me. And I don't think you can get a pair of shorts, like lightweight, quick drying shorts, stuff you can wade in that'll dry out quick. You can't do that for 20 bucks anywhere else that I know of. As much as I love some of these other brands, um, 20 bucks, 20 bucks is a good deal for shorts. And the shirts I think are in that same ballpark. They might be 25 to 30 range, but again, still significantly cheaper than what you can do with a lot of these technical shirts from the big name brands. So if you're looking to get something that still holds up, I mean, I've got I think three, maybe four of the shirts and three pairs of the pants. Um, I wanted to test it out and kind of see how it lasted. I still use them, and they've held up for me. Now, will they hold up as well as some of the higher end stuff? Are they quite as nice? Maybe not, but they're awful good for $20. So that is my kayak bassin on a budget tip. Hope that helps you out. And that is going to conclude this episode of Kayak Fishing Weekly. Tune back next week. We'll have some more kayak fishing conversation. If you would like to influence that conversation in some way, you have an idea for a show topic. Say you want to hear me talk about forward facing sonar. Um, in that case, I will not be the one to talk about it. I will bring a guest on. If you want to hear a show on forward facing, little tips and tricks, I'll try and get somebody on for that. If you've got some other show topic that you want to hear about, let me know. If there's something you like about the show, something you don't like, uh, feedback, whether it's positive or negative, feel free to drop a comment on the KFW Instagram page. You can DM me on Instagram. I've got Facebook, but I don't check it nearly as often. So if you want to reach me quickly, better to use Instagram. But yeah, drop a line, drop us a comment on the YouTube page. Let us know how we're doing. If there's a show topic you want to hear, or if there's somebody that you want to nominate for King or Queen of the Week, there's a story that you feel like we should share. So feel free to reach out and hit us up again with your ideas. And until next time, hope you guys have a great week. Get out there and catch some fish, and we will talk to you soon.